my questions again, I'll start my questions on you. Some of my questions you answered them like really good. You already answered the challenges, which I really wanted to talk about the challenges, but you have already answered it very well with the solutions and the lessons you learned. You answered the root causes, which is again is something I wanted to talk about. But we'll just start with the first. Let's go to your first project. So if you go to slide 2 of your first project, please.
Slide 2.
Slide 2. Yes. So slide 2. Yes, slide 2. It's strange enough. Slide 2. You're in slide 3, I
Slide 2.
think. Yes, slide 2.
Slide
Slide 2.
2.
Yes.
Which one is it?
Yes, that one where your mouse is on. Yes, that one.
This one.
No, no, the one
One
before
down.
that. No, the one before that. The one where you talked about the tools and techniques which you used.
Okay, this one.
Yes, yes. So my first question for you is, can you tell me why you chose to use Visual Studio Code and Python in your project?
I choose to use Visual Studio Code because it's a very friendly and easy to use coding tool. I use Python programming because Python is very understandable, it's easy to read. It is a programming language that accommodates different libraries that help you to easily manage and operate on the data sets, like using the pandas library, using the
Yeah,
numpys and the matplotlib to make
yeah.
visualizations, which is compared to languages like Java or C++,
Okay.
much more easier. It also
Okay.
helps with machine learning processing
Yeah.
and data modeling. So that's
Okay.
why I had to choose Python and Visual
Okay.
Studio.
Okay. So, so just to follow up on that, can you suggest any other programming languages specific? I know you mentioned Java and C++, right? And most of them are mostly for
Okay.
software development, and but specifically for data analysis, can you suggest any other alternative tools or alternative programming languages? Do you know any other alternative programming
Yes,
languages? Yep.
other po- other people use R.
Okay.
Other data analysis use R, which is more suitable for them, but
Yep.
depending on the level of understanding of
Yep.
programming.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, okay, that's really good because so it's a very good practice for you to be able to, even though, for example, you were taught your tutor said Python is the best. It's always good to always have some knowledge about alternative tools and where,
Okay.
because sometimes as a data analyst, even though you have learned Python, you may come across a problem where you may need to use another tool because it's more powerful. So I really encourage you to just not to learn R, but just read about its advantages and where it's mostly used for, what it's mostly used for, just to get this knowledge so that when you are faced with a challenge of an alternative tool, you actually know which alternative tool to use. Also, there is MATLAB, which also I'll encourage you to,
MATLAB.
yes, I'll encourage you to look at. So that's fine. So let's go now to your box plot. So slide 6, you showed some box plots. Slide 6, yes. So this was quite interesting as well. And you actually, the box plots, you were lucky that the box plots actually were really different because the box plots is actually show. But take into consideration box plots, what are some limitations of this visual of using a box plot? What do you think are some of the limitations or the challenges of using a box plot?
Hmm. Box plot.
So, okay, let me rephrase. Okay, taking into consideration not just about you, looking at your stakeholders or the people you are presenting to, what do you think are some
Yes.
of the challenges they may face if you use a box plot?
Okay. They may not understand what the box plot is interpreting or is trying to represent. They may have difficulties understanding what the lines or what the circles mean.
Yep, yep. So
So
that's
it
a very,
box. Yes.
Yeah, so that's a very good point, right? Because the box plot, it uses the interquartile range, and someone who is not technical, you start talking about
Yes,
interquartile, and you'll be like, what is interquartile, right? So it's a very tricky plot, especially when it doesn't. That's why I said your box plot was a lucky one, especially when it
one
doesn't
year. Okay,
really.
all of them are.
They
Okay,
are
I understand what you're trying to say.
yes, yes,
Yes.
because they are clearly that's clearly you can clearly see the difference in the box plots. So you can explain this to someone. But if they were not that clear, it will be difficult because you start having to explain that okay, the median and the interquartile range, and someone who is not very mathematical may find the challenge. So I would really like you to explore ways on how just research on ways on how to help you as a technical person to be able to explain box plots to non-technical audiences. So just look at that as well. You as a technical person, how can you efficiently explain box plots to non-technical audiences? So that was one. So if we go now to your decision tree, which was your result of your machine learning, which was quite interesting.
One of that. This one.
Yes, so if you go up a little bit, I think slide 20, if you go up a little bit, yes, if you go up again, go 20, yes, that slide 18. So in slide 16, 17, and 18, you presented like the results of your machine learning algorithm, right? Can you tell me the difference between a decision tree and a random forest model?
A decision tree is like it breaks down the the searching of the model into different trees. Like you have a tree, then you have the child, then you have another child, then you have another tree, then you have another child.
Yep,
Meanwhile, the random forest regressor is more, how can I describe it? The decision tree is more structured, is more structure to how the decision tree is going about getting for them. Meanwhile, the random forest regressor is more uh, automatic or more spontaneous in getting to the final result, which means the random forest can take different paths
yep.
getting to the final result. Meanwhile, the decision tree you have to follow a particular path to get to the final result.
Okay, okay. So just to add on what you have said, yes, a decision tree is made up of the word is a graphical model, right?
Hmm?
Remember, it's a graphical model. It has connections between the nodes and it has edges. So it's a graphical model, and the edges represent the features. So you are splitting the data depending on the features that are important in the data. That is a decision tree, right? So you have this graphical model that starts with the most important feature and splits the data depending on the importance of the next features and so on. So the features at the bottom of the tree are the least important features, while the features at the top of the tree are the most important features, right? So it has this graphical structure. The random forest, on the other hand, is simply a combination of decision trees. So you see the name. The name
Okay.
is forest. It's a forest,
Mm.
right? Yes. So if what is a forest? What is a forest? A forest is a combination of decision trees. So what does the random forest do? You build multiple decision trees using random samples of your data. So imagine your data has, let's say, 20 features, right? So
Okay.
what the algorithm will do, it will take it will randomly select 10 features from the data and build a decision tree. Randomly select another 10 features from the
Okay.
data and build a decision tree. So these decision trees may vary because they may have different features, right? So what
Okay.
a random forest does now is that it aggregates the results of this decision tree. So it will build, let's say, 10 random decision trees. Then each decision tree will have a result. So let's say decision tree one produces says a housing price is $10. Decision tree 2 says the housing price is $5. Decision three says $3. It will take all of these results of the decision trees and find an average, right? So you aggregate the results of all the trees within the forest by maybe finding an average between these different trees, right? So yeah, so that is very important. I know you already understand a linear regression model. That's why I decided to focus my question on
For the
the random
decision,
forest.
yeah,
Yes. So it'll be good for you to also understand more complex, so things like the SG boost. Remember, look at
yeah, the
investigate,
details people with,
yeah, the
yeah,
gradient boosting algorithm. So trying to find out what is the difference between a decision tree, a random forest, and a gradient boosting algorithm. Yes. So that was my question, which I had. Um, so going down to your pipeline for your machine learning model, you mentioned different approaches. You mentioned doing feature model, yes, feature scaling. That 25, slide 25. Yeah. So I see in your code you used a min max scaler. Can you tell me
yeah.
more about this feature scaling technique?
A min-max scalar is like normalization. That is transforming the data to a fixed range, usually 0 and 1.
And what is
So in this
zero?
case,
Yeah.
0 represents no and 1 represents yes. So if a particular, for example, in the what was that? In the, for example, the central air ventilation.
Yeah.
In this type of situation, you have 0 for no and 1 for yes.
Yeah.
So it's able to create a scale from 0 to 1, where
Yeah.
each entry in the feature will be allocated as per the scale.
Okay. So that is totally, you have nailed it as well. So I even see it in your code. You have an X train transform, and you see the values. All the values are between 0 and 1, right? And as you said, it's a min max. So if in your data, all the least value that was in that feature will be assigned the value 0, and the maximum value in that feature will be assigned the value 1, and the rest of the features will be squeezed between, or what we call normalized between, that scale 0 and 1. So you're totally correct. So again, let's keep going. Let's go now to your tools, the tools you used in the grading system.
Okay.
Yes. So you had some very interesting tools similar to what you use for your time for the housing prices. Can you tell me the advantages or the benefits of using? I see you use ChatGTP. Can you tell me the benefits? How did this benefit you in your project or in your analysis?
With the use of ChatGPT, which is a artificial intelligence and machine learning model as well, it is able to incorporate or to replicate the domain knowledge of different roles. So
Oh,
in this situation, I explained to GPT that this is what I'm working with. Can you take in the role of a someone working in an institution,
mhm.
and you are trying to find out how what affects your students'
Yeah,
performances? So that's what I explained to
used it.
ChatGPT, and
Okay.
ChatGPT came up with a scenario of its own. That
Yeah,
okay, if you are working in this type of institution, these are the
yeah,
factors that you should be looking at,
yeah,
and this is how you can go about doing it. So with
yeah,
ChatGPT, it gives you suggestions as well as
yeah,
ideas
yeah.
which you can add to yours and then find a way to make it work.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So just to conclude now on your entire presentation before we move to some behavioral and knowledge-based questions, um, you if you go down, you mentioned overfitting. Can you explain to us what overfitting is all about?
He said overfitting.
Yes, how do you know that a model has overfitted?
If the model performs too well, like if the training score and the test score are very, very close, For example, if I see a 0.99 and a 0.99, then I know that my model has overfitted. Also, if it captures noise and outliers, or if the training score is too accurate, or if the training score is way greater than the test score. For example, if I have a training score of 0.9 and I have a test score of 0.4, it doesn't make any sense. Like the gap is
And
too much. So it shows that
yes,
the model is also complex. So we
yep.
need to reduce the complexity of the model in order to get better performance.
Okay. So you touched it. I think you confused a little bit. You started saying
Yes,
if
yes,
the
at the beginning, now I was like, no, this overfitting,
yes, yes.
no,
So
no, it's not
you
good.
nailed it. Yeah. If the training score is so good compared to the test score, and what does this represent? What is the training score and what is the test score? Can you tell me what is the training data and what is the test data?
Training data is the data that you use to build the model.
Okay.
Then the test data is the data that you use to test if the model is performing according to the data you have trained with.
Exactly.
Now, if you see that the test data is overperforming the training data, then there's a problem
Yeah.
somewhere. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so you're totally correct, right? So if the training score is far great, because the training data is what is used to build the machine learning model, right? And if the score is so good, it's good. But when you test it on test data, which the model has never seen before, and the score is very poor, then you know that the data has overfitted on that training data set. It means even though it's good on the training data set, if you bring new data, because you're building your machine learning model to be used with data it has never seen before, so you're already predicting that if it comes now with data it has never seen before, it will be poor. So that is what we call overfitting. And obviously underfitting is the reverse. If both the training and the test performance are quite poor, then we know that the model didn't even learn any underlying patterns within the training and the test data. So it's underfitting on the model. So that's perfect. So now, thank you again so much, Lionel. So we'll move now to some knowledge-based questions and regarding some concepts in as a data analyst, right? And my first question for you is, can you explain the measures you would take to ensure the safety and the safe and secure handling of data containing personal and confidential information? So imagine you receive data that has personal information and confidential information. Can you tell me some of the measures you would take to ensure that this data is safe and secure when handling the data?
If the data is safe and secure,
Yep. If the data when the data has confidential and personal information. So
first of all,
imagine, yes, sorry, yes, go ahead,
I
sorry.
want to know if the data that was provided was collected with the consent of the owners of the data.
Yep.
I want to know if there will be there's no bias in this data. I would also want to know check the transparency of the data. Is the data reflecting exactly what it means? Is there
Yeah,
any true value to the data that is being
yeah,
provided to me? I'll also make sure that wherever I am, I will make sure that I'm storing, managing, and manipulating the data in a secure environment
okay.
that is only accessible to me during the required time.
Yeah. Okay, so can you give me an example of ensuring that it's in a secure environment? So if I give you confidential data now, how will you ensure the data is secure?
Mm,
So even let's even start from the collection. So even if I have confidential information, right? Or let's say health records of people, which health records are very confidential and private. If I have such a data set, how would you even collect that data from me? What are some measures you would take to ensure that even the collection is secure?
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So this,
Interesting.
yeah, it's a very interesting
Hmm.
topic, and it aligns very well with your cybersecurity, right? Your cybersecurity training as well. So I would really like you to think about it because
But
some
it
approach,
depends because in
yeah,
order to access data, you need to be granted some form of authentication,
okay,
authorization,
yes,
and accountability.
yes,
So there needs to be some level of authentication,
yeah,
and you need to get authorization from
yes,
a higher person in the whatever company it is.
yeah,
Now, in order to make sure that the data is stored, managed, and manipulated securely, we can use encryption methods
yeah, exactly,
where you can encrypt
exactly,
the data into a form that cannot be understood or
yes,
cannot be stolen to be
yeah,
interpreted by a
yeah,
hacker or
yeah,
unwanted.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so you nailed it. You nailed it. So again, explore. There are many things, but those are very key techniques you mentioned. Authentication is very important. So for example, if there is like secure and this, you always want to ensure that the people that have access to that data, have the right authentication and security, and obviously encryption, which is part of your cyber security, is very important. And you also want to avoid things like emails. Even in the worst case, if
yes,
you want to send the data through the email, you want to encrypt it as best as you can, and you want to always use like VPNs and very secure networks. So in people, you will not want to access that kind of private data on a public network. For example,
okay.
yes, you cannot be on the bus and the bus network you connect, then you're accessing healthcare records. So those are some situations, and obviously this is a very interesting part because it really aligns with your with your interest in cybersecurity. So I'll really advise you to think more about it. But you answered it really well. So so my next question for you, which again is behaviors. Okay, you already nailed on the challenges. You explained the risk of predictive analytics, but yes, you explained things like overfitting and but in general terms, can you tell me more about some risks of predictive analytics? Predictive analytics is machine learning. So predictive analytics is building any model for prediction, right? Can you tell me some
Mhm.
of the risks of these models, of machine learning models? Not in terms of the yes, not in terms of actually the work you did, but in general terms, what should people be aware of when building machine learning model? What are some of the risks of predictive models?
Okay, one of the risks of prediction models will be that the model will the model only works with what it is given.
Exactly.
Model doesn't consider other external factors like
Yeah.
human. The model is a machine.
Yeah.
The model only works with what human beings have provided it to work. It cannot
Yeah.
work with other factors that are out of its norm.
Yeah. Any
Another
other? Yeah.
disadvantage,
Yeah. Another
yes,
risk. Yeah.
another risk I will say is that um, the model may not be able to capture all the important factors that are necessary.
Yeah.
The model may minimize some factors and
Yeah.
prioritize other factors. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
all factors need to be considered. As we saw in the model with the student math grade, where
Yeah.
I separated the dose of economic and
Yes.
those needs, we saw that the machine was not able to
Yes.
understand whatever because the model was performing so poorly.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, when I put the previous academic performances, now the model begins to understand that okay, this
Then.
is how it works.
Yeah.
So those are one of the ways.
Okay. That's very, very good concepts. Very good. So you nailed it. Over reliance on data. So sometimes the model, as you said, will over rely on the data, and the model is as good as the data, right? So if you give the model poor data, the predictions will be poor as well. So it's as good as the data. And you said it doesn't account for external factors. So things like COVID, our model could not predict that COVID will occur. So imagine people who are using prediction models during COVID, like all their models were
Yeah, yeah,
actually yeah. So it doesn't account for those factors. And a very important aspect as well is in terms of is the interpretability of the model, right? So
yeah.
you mentioned that, which was really good. Linear regression, very easy to interpret, but less complex, and it may not capture underlying complex patterns. And as you go to more complex models, better performance but less interpretability. So interpretability is a big risk when it comes to predictive or machine learning models, which was good. So that said, my second to the last question for you is, can you explain approaches, two approaches or some approaches of combining data from different sources? I know you used, so just to build on that, I know you used the merge functionality to combine like two data frames, which was brilliant. If we move to something like SQL, right? Can you tell me how to
Okay.
combine two tables, two techniques of combining two tables?
You can use the joint
So
where you'll be able to combine two tables. It also depends on the what type of data you're combining.
yeah,
Are you combining the CSV with the CSV? Are you combining the CSV with an SQL? Are you
yeah,
combining an SQL with something else? So it depends.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can
So
do the merge, you can
yeah,
do
so
a join,
yeah, so I
you
want
can
to go
also
deeper
do
into
an
into
SQL query.
joins. So sorry, I want to go
Yes.
deeper into the joins. So can you tell me some types of joins and explain one or two types of joins?
We have inner join, outer join, left
Okay.
join, right join.
Can you explain any two?
So, for
Yeah.
example, a left joint, if you have two data sets, maybe the student and grade, and I
Yeah.
want to know the student's name and maybe um, the course name.
Yeah.
So I have to perform a left joint
Yeah.
where I will put the grade course name of the grade of the course name, and then I will take left join of the student's name.
Yeah.
Now, in the situation of a is it a full join? I don't remember the other one very well, to be honest.
Uh, okay, that's fine. So in case of the left join, what do you think are some of the risks of using a left join? Or what are the potential results if you left join a a table? So if you take, for example, you said grades, right? If there's a table for where all that has the grades of students, and there's another table that has information about students, right? And you want to do the left join of the student information table with the grade information table. What are potential things that can happen when you do that left join, where the left table is the student information table and the right table is the grade information table?
You might find a risk of redundancy, which is repetition of some grades or repetition of some students' names recurring many times.
Yep. So just to build on that, that is very good. So most often the risk of even redundancy will come in things like the outer join, but the left join, one of the main thing is, imagine a student that is, so imagine you want to get information of students who have had grades, only
Hmm?
students who have had grades. So if there's a student that did not take that exam, you are not interested in that
I'm not
student.
going to take
Yeah, so in that case, you do what we call an inner join, right? An inner join will merge, so it's almost like an intersection. So it will take only the students that have had grades and provide and combine these two information. Whereas if you have a left join, what it would do is even students that have are not present in the grading table, it will still extract, it will put nulls for their grade. So students that are not in the grading table, they will have null grades, they will have empty grades. So this is important because sometimes you may want to know the students that have not
Okay.
taken exams, right?
Yes, yes,
And
yes,
in the
yes,
yeah,
yes.
so you may want to know students that have not taken exams, and you do like a left join so that for students that are not in the grading table, you have like missing values for them, and you can use that information to actually identify students that did not take the exam. So those are just some of the examples. But again, try to read about the inner, the outer, the left, and when it's best used, because it's a very powerful, there are very powerful techniques that are used to combine data from different tables. So my last question now for you is, and it was the beginning of your training, and let's conclude your session with that question as well. So what is the difference between structured and unstructured data, and can you provide some examples?
Structured data is data that come in the form of tables, while unstructured data is data that come in the form of media files like images and sound. Structured table, we have Excel, we have databases.
Yeah.
While unstructured table, we have images, we have audio, we have even sound.
Yeah. So Lionel, that was the end of your assessment. Again, thank you so much for this, for taking the time to complete your assessment. For me, it's a distinction, clear distinction. So you have proven to have the skills, the knowledge, and the behaviors of a data analyst. And I am very much prepared to support you in your journey in career wise and job wise, and because you have demonstrated that. However, again, as I told you, there is always room for improvement, right? So after this, I'll share with you feedback about everything I've asked you, places for you to look out for, things that you can revise on, and I'll also share with you your continuous professional development plan in terms of your, obviously you're very much interested in the unsupervised learning. I'll share you links about the unsupervised learning, how to, so you can start reading and start applying it in other techniques, in some of the data sets, and start seeing how to use it in a lot of the data sets you have. So we will we will do that, and that will be the plan. And apart from that, we can start working again on your CV, on your cover letter, and start looking for opportunities, because I think you are already ready to get into the job market. You have all the skills any employer will want if they are interested in data analysis. So well done, and a very good job you have done. And if there's any question, please reach out again and let me know how I can support you. But I'll share with you that plan and we can move from there. Is that okay?
It's okay, bro. It's okay. It works.
Okay. Okay, that's good. That's good. So I wish you all the best, and I will talk more. We'll catch up more after I share that plan. I'll just round up my notes and I'll share with you feedback about your assessment.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me? Oh, sorry.
At the moment, right now, maybe for the CV, I really want to know, like, can you help me with some points?
Yes.
Which strengths do you think I have, and which strengths do you think I'm
Yes.
lacking?
Yes. Yes.
So I
Yes.
know how I can build my
View your
CV.
CV. Yeah.
Which tools do you think I'm
Yeah.
able to, you know,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I want to
No, we'll,
know.
we'll work on that. We'll work on that. So in the next 1 month, I think by the end of November, or let's say December, we should be able to get you a very strong CV, and with a very, yeah, we should be able to do that, and we'll work on that together. I'll share with you insights on how to build a CV and so on. So don't worry too much about that. You have all the necessary skills to excel in any company in the world. So you are in a good place. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Lionel. See you
Okay.
then. I wish you a nice
Okay,
day.
bro.
Okay.
Have
Bye
a
bye.
nice day.
Yeah.